Thank you for being with us today, Sahar. This is One Action, a podcast by PepsiCo, and I would like to thank you for being with us today to talk about Bambuyu. Let's start by talking a little bit about how the idea came to mind. Why did you think that you needed to work on sustainable toilet paper?
Right. So I've always enjoyed choosing sustainable products over ones that are not. And with having kids, that just amplified. Also, when I had my second kid, it meant that our waste increased tremendously. So when my daughter was very young, I decided I'm going to look around the house and see what are the correction areas that I can make. And I was able to make a lot of substitutes for, our plastic packed goods, our cleaning material, our cosmetics, even our fruits and vegetables. I was able to find local substitutes. But then I looked at our toilet paper and I realized I don't know how it's made. And it's something that we all use every single day. So I started to read about tissue manufacturing. And the more I read about it, the more convinced I became that tree-free tissues were the way to go. So as it turns out, 15% of global deforestation is due to toilet paper manufacturing, and it's the single largest consumer goods industry to cut down trees. So I felt that I personally, from my own home, can have an impact on reducing that rate. And the next time I went to the supermarket, I went to the toilet paper aisle thinking I'll find what I'm looking for. And I was disappointed to see that really everything looked the same. It was toilet paper made from trees, packed in plastic packaging. And I continued my search for months. And when I failed to find what I was looking for, I decided it was on me to introduce a tree-free and plastic-free tissue in the UAE.
That's amazing.
And that's how Bambuyu was born.
That's really amazing. And building on what you just said, so statistics say that 27,000 trees are being cut down daily for toilet paper.
That's right.
The number is really alarming, especially that it's something, like everyone uses all the time, everywhere. So you can only imagine, how much the impact of one person can be. So it's been 2 years now that you've started Bambuyu. And I'm wondering if you feel that you have made an impact. Are people, consumers, reacting positively to that? How do you feel that you were able to make a change?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the conversation has gone from what is bamboo tissues to I'm now going to look for the tissue that fits my home and it's more sustainable. So we no longer have to start from ground zero with customers. They are looking for sustainable tissues. They know the impact that standard tissues have. And I mean, the standard tissue industry hasn't changed since the invention of tissues. It's pretty much the same. And I think people are looking for something fresh. And it's been very impressive to see how on a consumer level, consumer household level, that the awareness, the need, the pull to have eco-friendly products is there, where we want to see a little bit more movement and desire to make that shift is in larger organization where consumption is really high. So obviously making that shift can be more difficult. And really speaking with stakeholders within those areas to make that change together.
Tell me more about what it is made of and how do you make sure that it is more sustainable that way?
Yeah. So we use bamboo. Bambuyu tissues are made from 100% bamboo. And bamboo is a grass. I think there's a misconception that it's a tree. We call it a bamboo tree, but it's actually the world's largest grass. And it grows 30 times faster than trees. It requires very little water. It can grow really in any soil. It's naturally antibacterial, so it doesn't need pesticides. It's just a miracle plant. It can be harvested and it grows back naturally, as opposed to with trees where once you harvest it, it's gone forever and you've got a stump in that place. So yeah, it's an incredibly fast growing grass, and that's what we use to make our tissues with.
And where do you source them from?
We source them in China. So bamboo traditionally grows in China, Vietnam, Indonesia. And we source from China and we make in China and we import them into the UAE. The plan is to eventually be able to grow bamboo here. And that's something that we're working really hard to find the right area and the right way to do it. It might not be something that we utilize ourselves immediately, but it can really give us that long-term plan of being able to source locally and make locally.
That's definitely extremely important. Sourcing locally, it will also, reduce all the emissions from like bringing things from abroad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all pulps are imported. Even if you're buying a locally made tissue today, the wood is not used from the UAE, right? We don't have forests. We don't have old forests that we can use the pulp, or farms where we're growing the right raw material in at the moment. So yeah, to create that life cycle of like farm to roll would be a dream for us.
How much quantities do you need a month?
It depends on a household level. With a good roll, with a good quality roll, you would use about 6 or 7 toilet rolls. With maybe slightly less plies, or with a non-absorbent tissue, you might need 2 or 3 times that. Our toilet rolls also have 300 sheets, which is 2 or 3 times larger sheet count than any other tissues you find in the market, so they last you much longer. The idea with Bambuyu rolls being so generous was that we wanted customers to buy our pack and not have to replenish for as long as possible. And I don't know if you've seen them. They're beautifully wrapped into recycled packaging. So it's something that you can display rather than hide underneath your cupboards.
I know you actually brought some, so maybe we can actually have a look together.
Yeah. So we want our customers to buy once every 2 months and have enough to last them for as long as possible.
Would I find it in any supermarket?
So you can find it in Kipson's, you can find it on Amazon, or from our website, bambuyu.com. We're not in supermarkets yet. It is our 2024 plan. And again, I think as a startup, it's important to take distribution one step at a time. I have to make sure that we are operationally ready, that wherever we are, we're focusing and we're in front of the customers who are most likely to buy our products, and eventually we can roll into all the other channels. But we started very small. I started Bambuyu with just me. We are now a team of 2.5, growing very gradually. And I wanted to make sure that we're not stretching the business too thin, that we're not able to sustain ourselves.
And what about the growth? Like how much growth have you seen in the past 2 years in the business?
We've had like a 400% year-on-year growth. So demand has been incredible. And this is just within the UAE. We've just launched into Saudi. So our products are available to shop outside the UAE as well. And the plan is to roll into the rest of the GCC and globally next year.
Okay, so you were talking about how regular toilet paper is basically from trees, and then it's wrapped in plastic. So if you are to tell me about the main features of Bambuyu, so we know that they're made of bamboo, what's the wrapping about? And also you spoke about how nice they look. So like if you could just give me an idea of, why you think this is a different product that people should look out for.
So to avoid using plastic, we had to pack our tissues into something, and we decided we will individually wrap them in recycled paper. They're incredibly thin paper. We used soy-based ink, so it's something that you can put into your compost bin, and they look beautiful as well. One reason was to obviously stand out from a very well-established industry. We have our favorite brands, and we know that customers tend to reach out for brands that they know, and we wanted to have that shock element of looking at something and going like, this looks different. I wonder what it is. And, we've really been able to establish that with our colorful designs. It's something that adds a pop of color to your bathroom, or with our facial tissues in your living room, in your car. They're bright, they're happy, they're very stylish, and it's something that a lot of our customers choose as the main reason of coming to Bambuyu. And then once they discover what the product is made of and our sustainability initiatives, they tend to stick because of that.
I'm sure it's been challenging. I mean, it's not easy. The topic itself, like talking about toilet paper, might not be the most comfortable thing to do. And I'm sure there were also challenges. to the business itself. So tell me more about these challenges and how are you able to overcome them?
Yeah. So maybe first talking about the topic of toilet paper, I think our packaging has helped. So we don't really have to talk about the function of the product per se. It is a beautiful product. It speaks for itself. If you pick up any product of ours, including our toilet roll, you'll see you'll read all the reasons why you need to use Bambo, and it has all of our mission and elements. When you open our packaging, we've utilized the entire property of the box because we don't want to put more paper into it. So we really engage with our customers in the way that our packaging is built. And I feel in the past 2 or 3 years, there's less resistance about talking about personal hygiene, or, female hygiene brands do it. People are more outspoken about all sorts of topics. So toilet paper is less of a taboo. And our product is quite similar, if not better, than any tissue you've tried. So it's not different. We're not expecting customers to use our product any differently. It really has the same experience and function as your tissue has, but it's better for the environment and it's better for you. It doesn't have any scents and dyes. So we really talk about those benefits rather than, the how of it. The business challenges, it's interesting. When we first started the conversation, you asked about our manufacturing and where it's made. So my plan was to manufacture in the UAE, and I was quite certain that I'm going to knock on a paper mill or a factory door and talk about a partnership and just discuss how it's done. And I spoke with, an upwards of 20 something providers here in the UAE. And not only we got a solid no in terms of partnering with a new bamboo brand, I was also discouraged from starting the business. I was told that there is no demand for sustainable tissues and that the business will not take off. And I took that as a sign to really go at it myself. I knew that no one else is after creating bamboo tissues, and I knew I had to create the market for it. There's no shelf space for bamboo tissues. There is no other player here that we're competing against. So it really left a hole in the market for us to go after, but it also meant that we were doing the work from scratch. So even speaking with supermarkets or quick groceries, we have to do that groundwork of why is a premium tissue, why is bamboo tissue better? Why is our tissue premium? What does it do differently? And I think once we do that groundwork, it'll be much easier for us and, for any other sustainable brand that comes in. But the burden of that first step was on us.
It's very interesting that, you went for it. Although, you got so many people telling you this is not going to work. You must have had a lot of faith in that idea, which is very interesting. What about, do you have any investors supporting you? I mean, that's financing a business is definitely a big challenge. So what did you do to make sure that you can start that business?
So I started the business on my own. It was self-funded. I have an incredible husband who takes care of the house and making sure our kids stay in school. And, because starting a business is not only is it expensive, you're also taking yourself out of a salaried position. It is a time and financial investment. So, I'm lucky that I have a partner who encouraged me and, took care of things while I got Bambuyu going for 2 years. We now are at the later stages of signing with our investors. So
that's amazing.
In year 3, we will have investors on board, which will really allow us to scale, to expand our product offering, to expand into new countries. And, I'm glad that we managed to continue our journey the first 2 years self-funded, but speed is everything with a startup. So while it might be possible to achieve those same things as a lifestyle business, it might take an extra 4 or 5 years. So we see a big benefit. We're very excited to have that investor on board.
No, that's really amazing news. And while we're talking about Money, thinking about how profitable this business is, because, doing things the right way, sustainably, is probably more costly than,
Absolutely.
the regular production of, how things are made. So how profitable is the business, and how are you able to make that balance? Because yes, you want to offer a sustainable product, but this is a business and
Yeah.
you need your profit to be able to also, go on. So how do you balance that?
So I think it's the right way to look at it is how we priced it, and just making sure that without wanting too much and without being greedy, that we do have that margin to continue and sustain ourselves. Because the last thing I want is to launch a business and 2.5 years in think I'm not able to continue because we're priced incorrectly. And yes, everyone has been able to buy our tissues at the same price as the lowest in the market. We've matched the cheapest tissues, but I really don't have any financial means to continue the business. So we had to price in the effort that goes into obviously the cost of our products. We have our warehousing, we have delivery fees, we have marketing that's incredibly important at a young startup phase, and making sure that we have that wiggle room for profitability. It's also creating or talking about a customer perception of expensive versus cheap. And sometimes we get challenged a lot less by individual customers, but more by if we're speaking with a hotel on our pricing, and can you match our current supplier of tissues? And we can never do that. We use a premium raw material, which is bamboo. We don't use plastic, which adds a big premium. There's a reason why everything is packed in plastic. It's incredibly cheap to use, and it's very accessible, and it means that your packaging is smaller because it's shrink wrapped, and you really, you roll it up and throw it into the bin and you're done with it. So it's correcting that perception of, okay, yes, we're not matching that price that you're used to, but at what cost are you saving money? So to understand what you are paying for and how you're contributing to your own future, your children's future. What are you preserving? For us, we started the conversation very early with our children about sustainability and why it's important to choose correctly and consume mindfully. So the point is not to sell as many tissues as we can. It's to use less of it actually when you can. Avoid using tissues when you can. That's the most sustainable way of consuming things. And not just looking at a price point and saying I'm going to grab something because it's the cheapest. So it's a two-way conversation that we need to have with our customers, and from our side continuing to improve our cost. And the more we grow, the more efficiencies we're able to create, and the more corrections we can make in terms of our price offering, and the better it will be for our end customers.
No, definitely. I totally agree on the idea of, what impact the choices that we make leave on the planet. And I always think, what kind of planet are we leaving for our children? And I think, that's a big price to pay. If we think that, we're doing well because we're saving money now, that's only the short term benefit that we're getting. But on the long term, things look different, especially with where we are now, and how the environmental challenges have been, growing and growing year on year. And unfortunately, we're not able to do the needed to make it, stop or decelerate.
Yeah.
Let me take you back to the beginning of the conversation. You were telling me how you could not, you always wanted to find the products that were sustainable. Why? What pushed you to do that at the, before you started Bambuyu? What was the drive for you? Why did you think that you needed to find sustainable products to purchase?
So I think from a young age, my parents kept me very close to nature. We would always take road trips, and we would spend time in the mountains and by the sea. And I love nature. I love animals. I think, most people do. It's nothing shocking. But I was always very in tune with what the world has to offer. And as I grew, I also saw a lot of waste around me, like actual, garbage waste that had nowhere to go. So I would question, where does this go? I had a book called Garbage, I think, at the age of 4, and my grandmother used to read it to me, and I think it was quite ahead of its time now thinking about it. And it talked about the life cycle of our waste. And so I was very curious about where all of this goes. And as I grew up, I learned more and more about, yes, at some point these go into landfills, and there's not much you're going to do with it. We have mountains of clothes and plastic and toys, and this is really, it's going to be burnt. It's not going to be biodegraded. It all has an impact on all of our lives. And while it's easy to think out of sight, out of mind, I'm not engaging with it. Once I became a parent, it was impossible to ignore it anymore, because if I'm not going to be impacted by it, my children will. And if they, by some miracle, don't, their children for sure will. We're all going to end up consuming, we do now. We have microplastics in breast milk and newborn babies. There's no way to avoid it. It's in everything that we consume. And I wanted to think beyond plastic, because it's also easy to think, I'll just remove plastic, which you should anyway. But if you don't look, you're not going to find anything new. And it's the information that I found about deforestation it's not like some secret closed book information. It's if you put it into Google search, you'll find any information that you need from respectable sources. You just have to look for it. I think a lot of the time people don't have the time or don't make the time to look for the information that they need to. And it's also perhaps not provided to us. At least it wasn't when I was in school. The information about sustainability or waste management was not there. My children today, they're 4 and 6, and they come home knowing better than me what can be recycled. They go into the supermarket and they know, okay, I'm going to choose this over that because it's made of paper material, or I'm going to choose a can because it's better than plastic. They know this information now, and that's incredibly valuable. So yeah, to your question, I think it was just ingrained from a young age in me to want to protect my surrounding. And today I don't live a, waste-free life. I don't live a zero waste life, let's say. I think we need to also think practically, and we all have busy lives. You're busy with work or taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, and you want functional things that feel familiar, that are not too different, that are not going to take too much time out of your day, but are better for the planet and are better for you. And that's what I wanted to do with Bambuyu, a tissue that feels the same, if not better, but is better for the environment.
No, that's amazing. And it actually, shows how important it is to create awareness among children specifically, because they're the ones that are going to be here, like 50 years from now.
And they'll look at us and think, you didn't make those changes, because they want to from this age. Yeah,
exactly. And, also at PepsiCo, we have been working with a small social enterprise, actually. It's a Jordanian one, but we've worked with them regionally to specifically talk about, plastic and how it should be recycled. So we've created actually like an impact box for children specifically. That's to amazing. Understand, the journey of that plastic bottle and where that bottle ends up after you purchase it. So I think, awareness in children is definitely one of the most important things that we have to do, because, they're the ones that are going to be carrying all of this weight. And, the future is theirs, basically.
Absolutely.
So going back to the fact that you started this business, despite, different opinions telling you this is not a good idea, what can you tell people who are listening or watching now and thinking that they also want to start a business that is focused on, a sustainable product?
Yeah. So one is choose something that is genuinely lacking or missing in the market or around you or in the world. it doesn't have to be completely unique. I mean, bamboo tissue has existed for decades. We haven't invented it. But I knew we needed it here. So look at something that you can offer that's not there, because I feel a lot of the time, especially in the UAE, you tend to start something and then see multiplication of that across the region.
Yeah, it's also good that we've seen a lot of startups as well in the region.
Absolutely. So finding your niche, finding that unique offering that you can have, and to have a plan. I think a lot of the time, like the tagline can be just go for it, you can do it. But it is a hard process. You will sacrifice a lot along the way. There's a lot of self-doubt. If you have a family and you have a partner, make sure you are aligned, because it's not, you won't be carrying, you might be running the business on your own, but it is a family dynamic that will help it thrive. For me, it's time away from kids. It's missing school runs. It's, working at nights and balancing everything out. So to have a good plan, and to your earlier point, financial means are important. So are you self-funding it? Are you speaking with investors? Know how much you need for at least like the first 18 months. Know what your runway is and start there. So for Bambuyu, I knew I couldn't launch all products that I wanted to at the same time. We started with one product, our toilet paper. My brand was just the toilet paper. And from there, we had our customer engagement, and I knew what products they wanted next. So we grew very gradually. I introduced 2 more products, and we're still going at a steady pace. I don't need to have 100 different products in my catalog. I need to have what my customers are looking for. And I'm happy going at that pace.
All right. So before we wrap up our conversation, my last question would be about COP28. So we have seen, COP27 happening in Egypt, COP28 in the UAE. So how important do you think, having these conversations happening in our part of the world? And what do you think the role of your company and other startups, similar startups, what role can they play in that conversation?
I think COP creates actionable plans, and that's really important, because you can have plans, you can have dreams, right, without having the next steps to it. And I think COP really puts that into perspective of putting timelines and reaching the goals that you need to in various areas of sustainability. So I think at least it puts people and organizations in the right mindset, and that cooks the country for thinking about the steps that they can take. And I feel the thing with sustainability is that once you start one area of it, it's very irresistible not to have it trickle into other areas. So even at home, you can start with getting a water filter instead of water bottles, and then you'll want to reduce your plastic and take your reusable bags, and you'll want to switch your tissues, and you'll become more curious. So I think it's definitely puts us and other sustainable brands on the right track.
Thank you so much. And that's actually amazing, an amazing idea to leave that with our viewers or listeners, because you will actually be making a difference right here, right now. Sahar Karoubi, thank you so much for being with us today, and best of luck for your business.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.